Okay, let's continue with attribution bias. What attribution bias is? It is closely linked to performance bias because we see women as less competent than men, as we said before. We tend to give them less credit for accomplishment and blame them more for mistakes. That is something, isn't it? So even when women and men work on tasks together, women often get less credit for success and more blame for failure. We also fall into the trap of thinking women's contributions are less valuable. This often plays out in meetings where women are more likely to be talked over and interrupted. In one study, men interrupted women nearly 3 times as often as they interrupted other men. And women fell into the same pattern. So you see, women interrupt other women more than they interrupt other men. Given that women are often blamed more for failure and tend to wield less influence, they are prone to greater self doubt. Who doesn't in this situation? The bias women experience can be so pervasive that they underestimate their own performance. Often women predict that they will do worse than they actually do, while men predict that they will do better. In some cases, women are also less likely to think that they are ready for a promotion or new job. In one study, it was found that men apply for jobs when they meet 60% of hiring criteria because they know they can learn the other 40s or they find other people that will do these 40s by delegating. While women wait until they meet 100%, which is insane because nobody will never know 100% of everything. And for every new role, there is the learning curve, which 60% is good enough for you to get started, knowing that this 40% you is part of the learning curve. And even though you will never learn fully 100%, you always have to get people together with you to grow together. That is what leadership is about. This is how you grow your career. And of course, women don't lack a confidence gene. It's just the way they are made, they are made to believe in the environments, the way this patriarchal system making women to believe that they are less than men, and even other women believe the other woman is less. Given Given we hold women to higher standards, so we expect them much more. Remember before that they expect women to show they can do it. Women may rightfully feel like they have to hit a higher bar. So things are more difficult for them. However, we have with this awareness, we have to watch yourself and ask yourself, is this real that I've been asked to perform more, to show more? Is this a bias, or is my own biases, or is my fear of taking that next step? So I give you here an example in meeting dynamics. You are in a meeting and a woman colleague is spoken over or interrupted. Why it matters? We talked a little bit, but I repeat. If women's ideas aren't heard, it makes it harder for them to be perceived as key contributors, which can harm their career progression and self-esteem. When teams miss out on women's insight, it can also mean your company is missing out. Teams that foster diverse point of view often have better ideas and get more done. What to do in situations like this? When a woman gets interrupted, speak up. You may say, I'd like to hear the rest of Marina's thoughts. Or Marina raised an important point I'd like to consider further before we move on. So, give Marina the opportunity to continue to express herself, to give her contribution. If you are leading a meeting, reduce interruptions by following an agenda. Agenda, how many meetings have no agenda? This really scares me. And ask people to contribute in a structured way. You might say, let's go around the room and get everyone's ideas. Or you can also invite individual women in the room to contribute with their opinions. I'll give my saying here. If you're leading a meeting, it's your job, it's your responsibility to make sure that the meeting has an agenda, but also has a clear goal and outcome, expected outcome. And to reach that is also your job to make sure that everybody contributes fairly and squarely. So it's your job to inform everyone in the meeting when you start in the meeting, how the meeting will be run. You might say, hi guys, the meeting today is going to be run this way. I will present the topic and then we go around the room where everybody has 2 minutes to give their ideas, their contributions. Please be straight to the point. Or you can say, I'll be giving the topic until the end. Please don't interrupt me. And the very end, we have questions and answers. And if you want to give your questions to, you might have an assistant, to Jane, and Jane will curate those questions so we make sure we don't have repeated questions. And this is very important in an online environment, having someone there checking the chat, curating the questions, and then when the end and Q&A goes to the questions that are relevant to everybody. So you as a meeting leader, you have to define how you want this meeting to run. This is why some meetings are such a waste of time, that everybody's there talking, but nobody gets anywhere. And why it happens? People tend to value women's contributions less than men's. One way this play out is in meetings, where women, and in particular women of color, are interrupted more and get less time to speak than men do. This is not good for anybody, and that gives a very bad signal to all the women and to all minorities in the groups that they are not valued at the same level as some men or white people or else. So, a lot to learn here, a lot to be aware of, and let's continue with the next session, and we will talk about likability bias. Bye for now, and talk soon in a moment.